riding Humvees.
Mr. Doshu, you want to make an announcement of where we are?
We are at scenic historic Nokesville, Virginia. Located dangerously near Manassas. At the, what is it called? The Virginia Museum of Military Vehicles. Outstanding.
And we'll be making our way up there shortly.
We'll have our scenic tour.
Ducking dogs, get right up on them.
Take a tool around. The earlier version. The one they use like crazy in Korea. And once they whooped the North Korean Air Force's butt, and then they
start shooting people with it.
they started stuffing Chinese with it. Be mighty nice if we stuffed the Chinese with guns.
Look, Paul, you wounded one.
Man.
Shooting people with 40mm cannons. It's pretty bad. Hey, but that's what you have.
They get a 114 as well.
They do? Oh, there it is. Looks nice.
Oh yeah. Actually, this is the nicest interior of a 113 I think I've seen.
I know. Wait, just come out of the factory?
Yeah, it's like there's not even that much mud on that. And the nah, we kind of had them around. I was talking to one guy. He said that they were in one location, one fort that they had like a ton of these. So what they did was they had everybody.
Ooh. Good old M Deuce on there.
They get a nice shot of that beloved charging handle. Ka-ching!
Bunch of Humvees. Oh, that's nice. You know, I never got to ride one of those. Just got out of service too soon. Is that an M10?
No, it's an M36B2. It's got the armor cover.
Oh, but is that the M10 chassis?
Yeah. Yeah, they both use the same chassis. That's got the good old 9.
Oh man, it's a beautiful day. A lot of Germans pray with this one.
You got the Franken.
Oh. Are they giving bread and rides today?
Bread and rides. That'd be pretty cool. Playing for the sponsor machine gun.
But why do they call it an M5?
Well, the tagsman is his name. It's an M3A1 because it's got the stepped front glacis with the earlier style turret.
Place for was like 5 machine guns.
Yeah, one. There should be a sponson on each side, and one in the coaxial, and then one up here on the
Aircraft gun.
on the commander. Yeah, for the aircraft. Actually, it's mounting right there.
Oh, there it is.
Mounting for it. There's a shot of the engine.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I got an idea for.
Let me tell you something, Mean Gene. Me and the Hulkster shall prevail. How's it going, doing, Doshu?
Smile, you're on camera. This old tank.
Well, Dave, today we're going to focus on M3A1 tank here. We're going to try and do a little work here on the fenders there, get some pioneer tools up in the rack, and keep all the things back there. We're going to try to get the original fenders going.
Excellent, most excellent.
Yeah, we gotta buy the gas. Hey, Dave, I'll pay $5 even.
It's gonna take us at least $100 in gas to get it home from here. I live closer than any of you.
Mr. Doshu, you want to explain which vehicle? Start from right to left.
I think.
That's the engineer vehicle for what, T55?
Yeah, it's a base at T55 chassis.
Yeah. Next one is
That was at T72.
T72.
And that's
Next
probably,
one?
I don't know, is that a T72 or is that T50? No, it's got the muzzle brake on the end. That's a T55.
Okay.
It's probably a T55M.
The next one is 62? Or is that a 55
No, I think
again?
it might be another T55. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait a minute, hold on. That's 5 road wheels spaced after the first one. I think those are both either T54s or T55s. I can't remember which one's got the different spacing. I think those are both T55s now I think about it.
Next two are T34, 85.
That's right.
Excellent.
Yeah. And you got a PT-76 over there.
T76.
It was first used in Vietnam.
Ooh, yeah.
Right, against special forces. We're firing laws at it like crazy.
Also used in the Indian-Pakistan wars.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Yeah,
Pakistan
also
war.
used in Arab-Israeli.
Yep.
And then you got a BIMP 1
BIMP 1.
that you actually sat in last time. Remember?
Ooh, we shall do that again.
Oh, that. And there's the BTR-152. I think that's the Model K version, I believe. That's fully enclosed roof.
And we
BTR
shall
152K.
get in closer in a few
Much
minutes.
vaunted, still using a truck chassis too. Okay, don't feel too good. I can go home now.
You could have 2 people get HOV lane.
Exactly, so you win.
There you go.
You win. You should have 3. You should have a co-driver.
Artillery? Where? Was that a 57 or is that a 75 pack?
75.
Pack 75.
Yeah. Go for it.
Question is, how much is the property tax on a pack 75?
Property tax on that. $8 million. Huh?
Huh?
I don't feel so good. Can I go home now? Change my mind.
Hey, Patton showing up. So, do you have a problem with stray dogs and cats in your yard? May I recommend a Pack 75?
Do you have a problem with varmints?
Also great for deer hunting. And what'd you call this thing over here?
29C Weasel.
Ah.
Yeah, the Legion
Cute
uses
little
like,
thing.
Yeah, the French use these like crazy in their group mobiles.
With that excellent smell of canvas in the air. Love it.
It was a light transport.
Oh, really? Does it float?
Yes, sir. It's amphibious.
Really?
Yes, indeedly doodly.
Excellent. See, that's what we need for new generation cameras.
Either that or, just looking at some old lady's house.
Bring, bring, bring.
At the back of an open truck.
That's the one that used to be in front of the. Remember the one that 272.
Oh boy. See, the young Nazis are in.
Rebuilt World War II. Rebuilt World War II, maybe. They refurbished. All original parts.
The chassis on up.
Seems they don't have the front facing out.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Hit the wrong button, shut it off.
It's like an M5A1 right there.
Yeah.
There's the issue. That's pretty cool.
Super Sherman?
Pretty stylish. There's another good motor carriage.
Let's go around here and take a look at this.
17.
Huh? An oldie goldie.
Well, this is the U.S. production. That's what. Because we put a gun shield on the front of the gun.
Question is, does it run? Ooh. Now that's what I want to park in my garage.
I think that's the Mark 10 because it's got the 105 L7 on it. Oh, that'd be a great commuting vehicle.
There's a gun on the ground there. See it? Someone laying their old 105 on the ground somewhere. Yeah. Now, if you want to give me a ferret for a pet, that's what I want right there. Centaur? Yep. Scorpion?
D432's right there. There's a bishop, I think.
Hmm? There's another one. Centurion?
Yeah.
It's most cool. Is that a British
Yeah.
SP?
Yeah. I think it's the Abbott. No.
With what, a 105? Or no, it's 155, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's the 155. No, it's the 105.
It's 105. Huh.
You know, I think there's a pair of FE432s, I believe.
Hmm.
Kind of like David. Yeah, I remember it was a big deal because they were really hyping it up because they said it was going to replace the Sheridan, and it wasn't, you know, it was going to be a big piece of crap like the Sheridan was.
What time do you have?
So the time is, it's like 12:25, sir.
Okay, because the show starts at 1. We want to make sure we run out of here for it.
Yeah, I don't want to do any kind of socio-faux pause.
Is this the one that was on, there was one in Washington Times. This might be it. Pretty sure there, do not pass. Well, at least we get to that point.
Far enough, gentlemen.
That's right.
You'll see them. You'll see them up there later.
Oh, okay.
We're going to drive these. They're all alive, ready to go.
Cool.
Well, no, maybe not. I like that. That can go just about anywhere.
That's in the old Murdoch camouflage.
That's for steering.
I hate to say so, I'm painting all my vehicles that way. I think it looks better.
Better. There's a better camouflage, isn't there?
Oh. It's a little harder to paint, but I still like it. It looks, makes your micro armor look better. Oh well. Guess you want to do some work in a warehouse. A duck? Alright.
We got the Chappie and the M481.
Yeah, I see it. Right behind it is M4.
It looks like we got 3/4 ton after that.
Is that M4 with the older one?
That's the M481. That's the cast-hole version.
Yep. Most cool. That'll be coming out soon. Excellent.
All right, it's about.
One thing sure, my arm's gonna be sore in the morning. Camera's starting to weigh. Let's go over here and look at a OT64. I see you give it a lot more wear and tear. Is it built by a Czechoslovakians? What's that?
The official nomenclature. Yeah, it's OT810. Excuse me.
But this is post-war.
Yeah. Same running gear though.
Very, very convenient.
Here we go with some personal weapons. I'm assuming MG34.
Yeah, once you fired it, pop the sight, it's the front sight. Throw it up on their shoulder. One man show. Push down on the ignition, and it will fire out. Back blast. You make sure your back blast was clear, so you didn't blow anybody away. You're one of your buddies. And then you fired it off and just dropped it and took off. And then this is the higher octane version, which is the Panzer Schreck, which was a crew-served weapon. It could be reloaded and fired as many times as you want. Fired the 88mm projectile, which is laying right in front of it there, and that would knock out anything on the battlefield. This would knock out about 85% of anything on the battlefield. 1938 and 40. Never really created anything, but we don't have a Sturmgewehr here, which looks kind of like an AK-47. It's got a fanatic sight. It's the first true assault rifle that they manufactured the AK-47 off of. The Russians did. So a lot of the stuff is very effective. That machine gun right there is still in use in a lot of third world countries today. We had a better Russian.
Here into the video. It'd be gone forever. Yeah, but if you wake up in the middle of the night and there's this shadowy GI with an M1 in your bedroom.
Should I give the tape back to you then?
Yeah.
Make it snappy.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Dave, that's a standard 1941 infantryman's uniform.
Cool.
41 jacket. I think it's a 38 enlistedman's trousers. That's the 38 enlistedman's dismounted gaiters. That's either the 41 shoe, and they also use the 1917 shoe.
No, these are long line version cap toes. But you're close. The 41 shoe just didn't have the cap toe.
Oh yeah, that's
Something. Ah! Was cool.
Well, we're going to walk down here if you guys have already done. Come on, George. Let's look at some of these.
Yeah.
What the hell is that anyway? Well, if they are now. They would be laying there. We can't see. Yeah, that one is.
Oh, sorry about that.
I can't see. It's got air trip pickup. Right side. The two vision ports are for a pickup. Really? The Germans had stuff to do.
Yeah, it was 55. I understand. You're right.
Cool. Another 255?
Yeah. This is a Czech one.
Ah, okay.
So, bet cash money, it's a better made one than the Russians.
Probably made better improvements on it too.
Yeah, the Czechs are usually pretty good for stuff.
The 0150 is 234. Yo, PT-76.
Yeah.
I guess he just raised people. I mean, he had Konechnikov out here, right? Oh, yeah. Some of the Russians and contact. Yeah.
Ooh.
Might have good guess.
10 guys are crammed in there.
Can you imagine?
5 to a side.
You got people shoving toes and stuff at you. Excuse me?
Hey, Dave, how are you?
I booked a model of this.
Shame they don't have it open.
Yeah, I know. I was gonna hanker to see. Oh, they got a fish port over there.
A what?
Oh, it's still got seats. Scurvy dogs. Hey. Yeah, that'd be styling.
I hope it made it, 'cause I couldn't do the camera in there.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty neat to look at the BTR one. A big.
Isn't it styled after our half track?
Probably.
Which they probably still have.
Yeah, land lease. Everybody has
Huh,
a land lease.
it's more like Lent loose.
Yeah, let loose. Land everywhere.
Never get anything back. Okay, well, I'm going to hold the filming until the show.
Yes.
chairs up on top to be reserved for senior citizens. And since I are one, I know what it means. If everybody on the field would please come back on this side of the gravel road, we'd like to get going. We can't start until you're back here. Thank you. Trying to tell. You can read about those in books, you can see about it in films, but it's the people. These things are a medium for telling the story of the people who use them. And that's why we have, as you know, the old-timers know, we have speakers here at every open house who are part of history. We're trying to keep history alive for you, the generations of today, and for the generations of tomorrow. I'd like to introduce a few people before we start. There are several folks here I haven't seen. I think they've arrived. Is Colonel Sazonov from the Russian Federation here? Colonel Sazonov was on his way. I didn't know whether he had made it yet, but he will show up here shortly. Is Sandy Froman here? Sandy? There's Sandy, right over here. Sandy Froman is the second vice president of the National Rifle Association, a true friend of the shooters, the gun collectors, and maybe even vehicle collectors. Sandy, we're glad to have you here. Thank you. And I just can't help but recognize the person who probably came from the furthest distance to be here today, and that's my friend Dick Shepherd from Dorset, England. Dick, over by the flagpole. We're glad to have you here. It's with Dick has been a friend since 1989 when I was camped out with him in the back of a French chateau. It was the Normandy the 40th anniversary of, the 45th anniversary of the invasion of Normandy, and Dick was there with his great big huge Mack truck. It was freezing cold. I had a blanket about the size of a Kleenex, and Dick was helping me keep warm through those freezing nights when ice formed on the buckets in the early June. Dick helped us with a lot of vehicles we have here. Thanks to him, we've added immeasurably to our collection of British vehicles. Dick, thank you very much. And is General Edward Bouts here? General Bouts, there he is. General Bouts, who was part of the 37th Tank Battalion, 4th Infantry, 4th Armored Division, and I have finally succeeded in getting General Bouts to agree to speak to you next spring. Is that still a deal, General? It's still a deal. You're going to hear from him next spring. It takes a lot of effort to get all this stuff done here, as you can imagine. It's a labor of love for a lot of us. The people who work here that get paid, I don't think they do the work without the fact that they love what they're doing. They like the vehicles, they like the opportunity to share them, as I do, with other people. But there are other folks that have been very kind to us. And today we have with us the president of an organization that has been very kind to us and shared with us an artifact of history. Many of you know of the AAI Corporation. This is a corporation that's been in existence for about 45 years, and those of you in the military and government end of the business know that they are a very high-tech firm that is tops in the field of design, development of all kinds of equipment, simulators, software equipment, a very high-tech firm out here in Maryland. About a year or so ago, I heard that AAI had a vehicle that was about to go someplace where it shouldn't go. I don't know, a scrapyard or a playground or someplace of that sort. And so I called AAI and said, gee, we'd be interested in having this rare vehicle. And I got a hold of a fellow who is by the name of Ron Lobo, and Ron is right over here. Ron, put your hand up. Ron is the property manager for the AEI Corporation. I said, Ron, please, don't let this thing go away. This is an artifact of history. We'd love to have it in this museum because we want to get it running. It hadn't been running for 20 years. We'd like to get it running and share it with the future generations. And so thanks to Ron, it went up through the chain. Ron, you get a hero's award for this thing. But anyway, the vehicle was saved, and you're going to see it in a minute. And what I'd like to do is ask to come to the microphone Maurice Rank, Mo Rank, who is the president of the AAI organization up here in Hunt Valley, Maryland. Mo has been with the company since 1963, has held all kinds of jobs, and is now the president of the organization. Mo, we're glad to have you here. Please come forward and receive my thanks formally, and maybe take a few minutes to tell us about the vehicle.
Vehicle or not, Alan. Alan asked me to give you a little pedigree of where this thing came from. AAI, as Alan said, got started back in 1950, and we've always been interested in lightweight vehicles as a multiplier on a battlefield. We were the developer in the mid-60s of the T-92 light tank, which is sitting up the main entrance at Aberdeen Proving Ground. Alan, I'll try to get it back for you, but I don't think I can. In the mid-60s, we also were a participant in the Army Scout Vehicle program, and we have given our prototype vehicle of the Army Scout also to the museum down here, and the team is diligently trying to get that up and operating. The Rapid Deployment Force tank, which is what you see out here in the field, was an orphan in the Marine Corps Mobile Protected Weapons System requirements. It was designed to be 14 tons in weight, be deliverable by a CH-53 helicopter, had a 75 millimeter gun platform, and the system was designed to stop 35 millimeter on the nose and 7.62 elsewhere. It has an armor applique kit. With when installed, she stopped 57 millimeter on the nose and 145 millimeter elsewhere. The RDF was designed to be airlifted onto the battlefield. As I said, low profile, minimum crew. This vehicle is a 3-man crew. We also developed one with a autoloader and a 2-man crew. She's high speed, highly maneuverable. It's based on an M113 track and suspension system. We had an experimental Allison powertrain in it, the X200, and a turbo Detroit diesel. I believe it was the first 350 6V model. She's got a revolutionary 75 millimeter cannon on it developed by a company called Ares. The designer of it's a fellow named Gene Stoner. Most of you have probably heard of. He's in the Ordnance Hall of Fame. He is the developer of the M16 rifle. 75 millimeter is a unique gun. It's got a rotary chamber, extremely high rate of fire. As I told someone earlier today, we can fire 1 round per second. We're somewhat limited in ammunition, so we don't do it too long. The Delta 3 version of this gun, which is in a variant that's now out of TACOM, featured a 3-inch longer chamber and sabot with a muzzle velocity in excess of 5,200 feet per second. If you notice the tube on that thing, she's designed for a very high-speed projectile. We fired it in excess of 5,200 feet per second. And with that round, we could defeat the NATO heavy triple armor. This thing had a superior performance to the standard 105 millimeter tank gun at that time. A little more history. The Mobile Protected Weapon System became the Mobile Protected Gun under joint Army-Marine Corps sponsorship. The Mobile Protected Gun had a man in the turret due to the Army wishes, so we have a man in the turret on this one. After the study contract, the Marines got out of the program because the gun had grown too much and weighed too much. It was no longer air transportable. The Mobile Protected Gun and the Mobile Protected Weapon System were all part of the Armored Combat Vehicle Technology Program. This was funded by DARPA. Marine Corps and the Army. Its main attraction was the high-speed tracked vehicle light, or the high-speed HSTVL. It was a tank very similar to this. They looked very similar, except the HSTVL had a turbine engine in it, and she could get out and scoot. The mobile protected gun eventually became the armor protected gun, and the Army mandated 105 millimeter be used. The demise of the 75 millimeter was a lack of an existing ammunition base. We just couldn't afford to replace all those millions of 105 millimeter sitting out in the bunkers. AAI dropped out of the program at that time. I guess we still don't believe you can build a lightweight vehicle around a 105 gun. FMC tried, the program was canceled, so we still don't have a good lightweight gun to get out on the field by helicopter. The development of the RDF tank was a brainchild of our president, now retired, a fellow named Win Barr. Win was one of AAI's founders and is in the Ordnance Hall of Fame. As I said, as is Gene Stoner. The collaboration of Win Barr and Gene Stoner in developing this vehicle, two legends in the ordnance field, make the RDF tank a truly unique vehicle. We are truly pleased it has found this wonderful home, and we thank you.
Thank you very much. On cue, Mo, we really are grateful to you. We promise you, through my lifetime and a lot of lifetimes ahead, we're going to take care of this vehicle. We're going to share it with the public for as long as we can think of. Now, it's a small thanks in return for a tank, but we want you and Ron to look like Bubba's, just like we do. So there's a hat for each one of you. You're part of us. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mo. Last time for those that were here this spring, in early May, you'll recall that the speakers that day were two individuals who took part in the Normandy invasion, June 6, 1944. One of them came in by air. Sam Gibbons came in with 101st Airborne on the Carentan Peninsula. And another one, Al Ungerleider, came in with the 29th Division by landing craft on the morning of June 6th. And you heard from them about what went on in those early, very early days of the Normandy invasion, the invasion of Europe. Roughly 175,000 men were put ashore that first day. Men from the U.S., Canada, Britain. I understand there were some Poles that went in, and perhaps some other nationalities, but primarily Canadian, British, and American. 50,000 vehicles, hard to believe, but 50,000 vehicles went in the first 24 hours. But there were hundreds of thousands of troops on that day back in England, waiting to come over to reinforce and to help gain the lodgment there in Normandy. The two speakers that we have today were part of those reinforcements. One of them came in 6 days later, one of them came in 10 days later, and then fought their way across Europe in armored vehicles. Now most of us think about, when we think about armored vehicles, the image is a tank. A vehicle with tracks, very heavy, a turret, a big gun, all sealed up, hatches closing down so that you can't get into the crew on the inside. Well, that's a very limited definition of an armored vehicle. There are lots of other forms of armored vehicles and a lot of other uses for armored vehicles. They do come with tracks. They do come with wheels. They come all buttoned up. They come quite open on the top. And what you're going to see today is, and hear about today, is how these other armored vehicles, some of these other armored vehicles were used, how they were used in combat, and some of the things they did, and perhaps some of the things they couldn't do. But you're going to hear today from two of the folks who used these vehicles across Europe until the end of the war. Before we bring out the first speaker, what I'd like to do is bring on a small parade of U.S. vehicles that were used at the time in the invasion of Normandy and the fight across Europe. We're going to run them by for you now. And as you old-timers know, this is always a tense moment.
Yeah, start just to...
Because are they going to start? This first vehicle is an M8 armored car, and you're going to hear a lot more about that from our next speaker. 37mm gun in the turret, an open turret. And on top of that is a ring that's been welded on with legs welded to the side of the turret, carrying either a 50 or a 30 caliber machine gun. That's a U.S. vehicle that was developed and put in the field in about 1942 and used through the war. The next vehicle is a very close cousin of that one. It's the same hull and chassis and engine. It's an M20 armored car. It has the only weapon it carries is a machine gun on the ring on the top. Can anybody tell me what the next vehicle is? Yes, you guessed it. And this one happens to be made by the Ford Motor Company in 1942. Although they were made throughout the war. The next one is the Dodge 3/4 ton weapons carrier. Kind of an all-purpose utility vehicle. Kind of looks like a pickup truck. They call it 3/4 ton, but us folks that drive vehicles on the streets would call it 1.5 tons. In military parlance, you'd give the weight carrying capacity in an off-road situation. 3/4 of a ton off-road, 1.5 tons on the road. The next one is the CTKW, the GMC truck. It was the workhorse of the U.S. Army throughout World War II and in Korea. Troop carrier, cargo carrier. This is a truck that was used in the Red Ball Express, carrying all the equipment forward from the beaches across France. And I'll bet you a nickel we ran out of gas. The next vehicle is a variation of that same truck that's now parked over here. We want you to look at it a little longer. It really didn't crap out. It's resting for a while. What's underneath this duck, D-U-K-W, which is code, GM code for this vehicle, it's a 2.5 ton truck, the same one that you just saw first. That's an amphibious version. That vehicle was immensely important in the various invasions because it would take equipment, men and equipment, supplies offloaded from the ships and carry them onto the shore with a propeller pushing them through the water, and when they hit the beach, the wheels would take over and drive across country. The M3 half-track, M3A1 half-track. We're having fun with directions here. That's an M5A1 Stewart tank. You're going to hear more about that in a few minutes. That's a light tank. Hit the field in about 1942 and was used throughout World War II. Very light tank. Has a 37mm gun in the turret. The next vehicle is an M24 Chaffee. This vehicle finally made it to Europe. It appeared this vehicle appeared in about December of 1944, just in time for the Battle of the Bulge.
Damn.
anybody know what this is? Being very gently driven today, I'm not sure why. It could go a lot faster, but that's a Sherman tank. That's the M4A1 version, the cast hull, the rounded sides. There's also a welded hull with flat sides. We have one of those, but it's not out today. I guess it's over in the shop resting. While these vehicles are settling into place, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Major General Adrian St. John. General St. John entered West Point in summer of 1939, and he graduated in January. 1939, same time that Adrian St. John was going into West Point. And on August 27th of 1939, he was off at the camp, which is the same thing as our Army Reserve. They call it the Territorial Army. He was told, Ron, you're not going home. You're in the Army, and you're staying with us, and he didn't get out until April of 1946. Ron spent first part after training, he was stationed in Iceland, garrison duty there in Iceland. In 1942, he returned to the UK, England, and became a driver of a universal carrier, sometimes called a Bren gun carrier, and you're going to see that in a few minutes. He was then part of an all-volunteer unit called the Princess Louisa's Kensington Regiment, which was a branch of the Middlesex Regiment. And he was in a Vickers machine gun unit. And when Ron gets up here, he's going to describe to you what a Vickers machine gun unit did and how they functioned. On June 12th of 1944, Ron's concept was they didn't need to go any faster than 11 or 12 miles an hour. The first vehicle coming up is a British Valentine. This is a vehicle that was made both in the UK and in Canada. Sometimes it was powered with a gasoline engine, sometimes with a diesel engine. This one happens to be powered with a diesel engine. This is late 1930s technology and shaping of the vehicle. It's a four-man crew, and believe me, it's the tightest space of any of the vehicles that we have. It must have been very challenging to be inside that Valentine. It's painted up in desert camouflage, the kind of colors that you would have seen on that vehicle when it was fighting in North Africa, 1941, 1942. Behind it comes the Churchill tank, also an infantry tank. This was the heaviest tank the British had in World War II. Weighs 84,000 pounds. This was their mainstay, very heavily armored. The armor on the front, you can look at it afterwards, is about 5 inches thick on the front, and it's about 3.5 to 4 inches thick on the sides. An assault tank, it was meant to sustain heavy fire on the front, but again, to go no faster than the infantry could walk behind it. We spent about 2 years restoring this tank. It's one of about 3 that are operational in the world today. We're very proud of it. It took a lot of hard work. And guess what? We're going to deliver our next speaker in the Universal Carrier, the Bren gun.
Hey, how are you? You made the trip down. It's great to see you. Hi, how are you doing? Great. I didn't see you.
Dad, come on. Don't.